Hello and welcome back to the Secret Lair MTG Arena podcast. This is our second episode, so if you're joining us for the first time, which is quite likely, thank you for checking us out. If you're coming back and you saw our first one, thank you for returning. We plan to be here every week, and please do all that fun YouTube stuff like share, subscribe, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, yada, yada, yada. But my name is Daniel Guajardo. I am one of your co-hosts, and I am here, or joining me today is
Steve Walsh.
Mr. Steve Walsh. And first, we're going to start up.
Whoa, you chill on the Mr. stuff.
My apologies. Steve Walsh, no Mr. But we're going to start off just a little different here today from the first episode because we want to just run through what this weekend's tournaments are. If you have some free time and you want to hop in one of these tournaments, or if you would just like to watch some of the best play some arena, we have the Red Bull Untapped 2021 tournament, the Arena Open tournament, and then the Innistrad Championship. It all fall on this weekend, the weekend of December 4th. The Innistrad Championship broadcast live from the 3rd through the 5th and can be found on twitch.tv/magic beginning at 9 a.m. And the other ones, the Arena or the Untapped, are through MTG Melee or just through Arena itself. So enjoy some Magic this weekend. Hopefully you'll maybe want to play one of these decks that we talk about today. And we're going to start with our first segment, which is Standard. So Steve, you want to take this one away and take us into Standard?
Sure. All right, so Standard. Bad news, good news scenario. Good news is all these decks are kind of figured out. Bad news is, well, all these decks are kind of figured out. Standard, Standard goes fast in Arena. It's a lot of gameplay. It's a lot of people get more stats and get win rates and all that technical jazz. But when it comes down to it, these are basically the only 3 decks that I would recommend playing in any kind of tournament as far as Standard goes on Arena right now. Let's just start from the bottom up, if you will. Let's start with mono green. Yep. Bottom isn't really any necessary order other than this is the mono green deck. All 3 of them have their strengths and weaknesses, but as far as the decks in Standard go, these are the 3 that if you picked one, I couldn't slight you for picking any of them. This is pretty stock mono green, kind of the deck we went over last week. It's Faces Haven aggro. You guys are decently sized and the deck plays well together because you have cards like Ranger Class, which help you draw through the games where you stall out, and then you have your almost stock, and I guess you could say the pillar of the mono green deck would be your Blizzard Brawl. This is the removal spell that actually gets you where you need to go, kind of clears the way so you guys can do the business that you brought them here to do.
Yeah, so there's really no changes from,
well, there really isn't a lot of changes to be had.
I don't believe the chariots were actually in our last week's list that we went over, because I personally on my own list brought the chariots back when people quit playing the 2-drop that just blows it up. So I think the chariots might be the only difference.
Yeah, I think that might be the only change. Chariots just, it's a good value creature. It gets past any sort of like board wipe or whatnot. It generates value via creating tokens, and it's just kind of a problem to deal with. Yeah. Other than that, there really isn't too much of a big change for mono green. This deck is it's hard to kind of describe it, but like if there's a 3-deck format, this would be the air quotes mid-range deck of the format. Okay. Which is weird because mid-range decks definitely don't look like this typically, but no. Given how fast the mono white deck is and how it can get under this deck, and how over the top the Izzet Turns deck is, this deck just kind of falls in between those 2 goalposts, and it's the only one that can kind of play both sides of the spectrum to where it needs to. So, okay. Like, if you get paired against mono white, you can get a little bit bigger with this deck, but if you get paired against the Izzet Turns deck, you can go under them. So,
okay.
All right, next on the docket, Izzet Turns. It's almost kind of a misnomer to call this deck Izzet Turns at this point, because these blue-red decks fluctuate between not playing the Epiphany combo and just playing Hullbreaker Horror and a bunch of blue-red control spells, to only playing the Epiphany combo and playing no creatures in the main deck, to somewhere in between where it's the combination of Galvanic Iteration, All Runs Epiphany, and then usually at a late game off a Hullbreaker Horror if you get stuck in the mirror matches. It's pretty much dealer's choice with these blue-red decks. There's a lot of give and take with what you want to do with them, but these are the top end of the format. Nothing goes bigger than these. Nothing goes bigger than Hullbreaker Horror and then bouncing your opponent's stuff or taking multiple turns via All Runs Epiphany.
Mm-hmm. These are the decks that can end the game out of nowhere one turn.
Yeah, they try and play the long game and control you with cards like Fading Hope and Spikefield Hazard, using Jawari Disruption, and then everybody's favorite blue Swiss Army Knife, Divide by Zero, which just provides you with enough value via bouncing spells. It's the only thing you can actually interact with Hullbreaker Horror while it's on the stack.
Yeah, I think it's like necessary at this point though, just because of Hullbreaker Horror.
Yeah, Hullbreaker Horror and Lear for that matter. Let me bring up Lear real quick. Lear, cannot spell his name. Got him. And Lear. This is another card that a lot of these blue-red decks are playing as well. It's not in this current list because it's really hard to like give a specific blue-red list when they fluctuate so much, but a lot of them are leaning on Lear too, like Hullbreaker Horror Lear lists. And the reason Lear is big is one, just all the extra spells you get from the flashback and making your stuff uncounterable gives the Lear the extra boost it needs. And also it just kind of pushed all of the non-divide by zero counter spells out of the format, short of Jawari Disruption, which is only played because it's modal double face, so it's a land or the spell when you need it.
Yeah, which makes me wonder if it's as good as it would have been had people still been playing counters, because that would be a kind of fun, board swap where you swap out your counters, swap those in.
Well, yeah, but the only problem is like there aren't really any efficient counter spells in the format right now that aren't Jawari Disruption. Everything costs 3, and as you can see out of the mono green deck and here in a second the mono white deck, you get underneath all the 3 costed spells. So
yeah, and sometimes they cost 4 or 5. And against mono white. Yeah, okay, no, I like this. I like that. So this one's not fully figured out really, but
that's the thing. It's you can set these Izzet turn decks to however your play style is.
So there's no real edge to gain. It's just what you're more comfortable with.
I believe that's true. Yeah. Okay. So the other decks you have to fight against are the mirror green and white. So like you just customize your deck to what you feel like the metagame is going to be right now. And currently the metagame, in my opinion, slants more to the aggro decks because there are 2 aggro decks. Because the green deck is like a aggressive mid-range deck, and the mono white deck is just heavy aggressive white, but it's got some disruptive elements. So you slant your deck towards beating the aggro decks, and then I think you board more for the mirror later on because I think you're more likely to play against the aggro decks.
Yeah, especially just being 2 of them. I agree. I would do that same thing. Yeah. I would want to be ready to go against the mirror.
So moving from Izzet turns to the final deck in our standard spotlight, if you will, is good old-fashioned mono white aggro, low to the ground, super low curve, 1 drops, and then using your 3 drops to give you a long distance via Redain or Adeline or even Brutal Cathar to clear the way. Yeah. This is the aggressive end of the spectrum in standard. You can get under the mono green decks and your 3 drops are super powerful, and you also have disruption out of the board with like Elite Spellbinder against the blue red decks.
Yeah, no, I do like the mono white list. I've still favored the mono green, and I've won against blue red and mono white, but I've also lost to them both too. I unfortunately haven't been able to play enough to get a real opinion on saying, oh, you should be playing this one. What do you pick if you're playing this weekend? Red Bull Untapped is standard, right?
Yes, Red Bull standard. Set Champs is standard historic, but if I'm playing this weekend, I'm gonna have to go with probably mono white. That's more my play style. I don't mind. I like to be aggressive in standard, but honestly, it's so close. it's basically pick what you want to play at this point, because I don't think one of these decks dominates that much over the other one. In fact, if you look at like win percentages climbing the ladder via Untapped, all of these decks are anywhere from 58 to 60% win rate across the field. So given that's given those stats, pick anyone you want, pick whichever one fits your play style the most. I like to just get them dead quick, mostly because playing a long game, that's a young man's game, and I'm a boomer, as it were. So as much as I love this Izzet Turns deck, I just know that I might fall asleep mid-match because it does take a long time to win.
Hey, stamina is a legit thing in paper Magic and going and traveling to
100%.
tournaments.
And
Arena I haven't found it to be as much in the comfort of my own home and things, but
see, that's the problem. You get complacent on Arena because you're comfortable. When you're playing live, it's a little bit different. There's ups and downs to both play styles. But as far as standard goes, I think the best deck is really just in the eyes of the beholder, as it were.
All right, so you're taking mono white. Here's my little bit of advice just on a format that shakes out this way right before big tournament, because I love this format like this. 3 decks that all have the same that you can choose, because this is where your technical ability and knowing each and every one of these decks in and out and how they're going to board against you, that's where you find your advantages. So while they all may have the same win rate, if you want to be able to take down a tournament, you know your deck inside and out. You know what your board is, no matter which one of these you're coming up against, and you know what their board is against you. And you jam as many games as you can, and you use those technical abilities to be able to hopefully, outplay your opponents, because it comes down to very small percentages when the decks are this close.
I couldn't agree more. When standard gets to this point where it's, for lack of a better term, solved, there is no more surprise tech to be had. You win the games on the small edges. You win the games knowing how to board correctly. You win the games knowing what lines to take. Familiarity helps quite a bit.
Yeah, minimizing your risk of making mistakes that you're kind of what the forehead palm later, face palm, because you're just like, why would I do that? You minimize that by repeatedly playing games against these same matches. So while you might get a little bored with the format, if you're going to play a tournament and if you want to take down a tournament, that's what I would recommend doing.
Yep.
All right, so I think that we'll cover our standard segment here, and I think these are great decks for this weekend, and I hope somebody gets to have some fun with these or take one of these to a tournament. Moving on to our next segment, we're going to cover the historic format. So Walsh, you want to take us through what's going down in historic this week?
Sure. So historic is the second part of the 2-format Innistrad Championship, which will be the MPL and Rivals players will both be playing standard, as we just covered, and historic. These first 5, Junstack, Human, Celestia Combo, Phoenix, and Jeskai Control, these are the big guys in the format. Now, given that historic traditionally actually isn't played that much in high-level tournaments, I think the format's got a lot of room to move. There are more cards on Arena for historic than a lot of people realize, and that's simply because historic it's a format that is different than all of the other Magic formats, in that figuring out which cards are actually legal in it is, our brains aren't wired the way they are for everything else. Like standard, everybody knows, it's X amount of recent standard sets. Same with Pioneer and Modern and Legacy and Vintage. Like we know all the cards that are legal because you can think like chronologically what sets are in it. Historic's different because different cards get added to historic, like Collecting Company, which was legal in cons, but cons really hasn't been introduced to historic, but it's in historic because it was released in a Jumpstart set. Or no, it was released in Amonkhet Remastered.
What was it?
Yes, it's in Amonkhet Remastered. If memory serves.
So it's from Dragons, but the cons block, but yeah.
Right. So I believe that Historic has more play to it than you would think. Now, all that being said, these first 5, Sack, Humans, Combo, Phoenix, and Jeskai Control, these are the ones you're most likely going to see either via ladder or just in general. I believe that if I had to rank those 5 from best to worst, and that's completely subjective, I think that I would actually just have them across the board as they are on my screen right now. I think Junsack is number 1. It's the most versatile of the decks. It has a lot of play to it, and you can get on the board pretty quick. Humans is just disruptive and low to the ground. Celestia Combo is probably the cleanest Historic deck in the sense of the list. Everything is a bunch of 4s, and it's like we talked, you gain a bunch of life, and you have Squirrel Combo with the addition of, I believe it's the Blessed Cleric, that when you gain life, it gets counters, and once it gets so big, it has also flying and indestructible.
Which doesn't happen often. I've been playing this deck for a solid week since the last episode, and 1 time or 2 times, I think it got to that point where I had to win with that Cleric.
Yeah, it usually doesn't get to Ultron levels, but it's big enough that you have to deal with that. It has to be addressed.
It forces them to address it and then maybe leave you to hit your combo, which that's why I really like it.
And then, I mean, Blue Red Phoenix, people have been playing Phoenix the second Faithless Looting was spoiled on the client. There's nothing, I think the Phoenix decks are certainly fine. Between Unholy Heat and Pillar of Flame, they have enough removal spells to get through to what they need to do. And Jeskai Control is exactly the deck you think of when you hear the phrase Jeskai Control.
Yeah.
I'm betting in the dark, without looking at that list, you could name 20 cards in it.
I want to take 1 second to pause. Look at these 5 decks. We've been playing for a long time. These are all exactly straight from Modern, just fetchless. Jund, mid-range, always been in Modern. Humans, there's no Aether Vials, always been a strategy or archetype. Coco Combo just kills you out of nowhere or makes infinite life or infinite whatever. Always been in Modern for years. Phoenix, Jeskai Control, like these are all Modern archetypes that just got ported into Historic and removed fetches to make them be played a little slower, a little differently. I just think it's very interesting that those are still the best archetypes in a
It
whole
is
new
kind of
format.
true. Like the Jund Sack deck, it's not
Goyf and Lily, but
it's not Jund in the sense that Jund was, which Jund was just like a mid-range control deck. Jund Sack is kind of like it's like aristocrats and Jund together.
yeah.
It's a bunch of creatures you're sacrificing. It's more of an aristocrats deck than it is a Jund deck. It just happens to be Jund colors.
True. Yeah.
Which by that metric, if these are pulled from generally from Modern, like there are other things in this format that we have not found yet.
I agree, and that's why I'm really. So we also ever had the pros come in and tear apart the format either.
That's true.
And that's
the last time they did that was John Sack, but then different things were legal, and the whole like Historic hasn't been touched by the pros in a long time.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what they find or any edges or things that maybe, unfortunately these days it's very common for people just to what's winning a lot, copy paste, and not even look at any other cards in the format.
With that being said, sorry to kind of cut you off.
No, you're fine.
I'm trying to segue here, and I'm not the best at it just yet. But with that being said, like I actually built a deck that I've been playing to a very good win rate, roughly. I want to say it's like 70% over the last 60 matches I played.
That's good.
So this is my baby, as it were. This is my pet deck for Historic. So I have 2 play styles that I love playing above anything else: ramp decks and reanimator decks. So if you want to catch my attention, you'll have one of these 2. And this is the deck that I would suggest playing on ladder for as long as you can. So the basic gist is, just reanimator, but like cards like Priest of Felrites, a card that I had forgotten existed because it was in MH2 and it got put into in the Jumpstart sets. This card is basically copies 4 through 8 of Unburial Rites, but way more effective because you can put the creature in on turn 3 because a turn 2 priest of fell rights gets you there.
Yeah,
that on top of, you know, consider just it slightly fuels your graveyard, but it also plays well with everybody's favorite Mr. Krabs, Hullbreaker Horror.
Quick fun fact: Consider is the highest selling card by volume since its release of Magic the Gathering. It's a common out of a very standard set, and it's selling something like 500 copies online per week.
I mean, it's certainly like it's the cantrip we have been looking for years, right?
Yeah.
It's good enough to be played in historic and modern. It's versatile enough that like you don't feel like you're just feeling your graveyard like Thought Scour is, and it's not busted enough to be like Preordain or Ponder. I think with Wizards finding Consider, like it's the perfect balance. You're gonna see this card pop up in a lot of sets.
Oh yeah, and it's instant speed, which was a drawback to things like Serum Visions.
It really is probably one of the best blue cantrips they've ever made, balance wise.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great card.
Okay, so the overall gist of my deck is put one of the big dummies in play. And these are the best big dummies to put into play. I have done extensive research. So the big thing about all 3 of these, they all live through Unholy Heat. They all have 7, 7, and 8 toughness, respectively, which means they can't be in a Holy Heat off the board. You would be shocked at how many games you end on turn 3 by going any one of these 1-drops into Priest, into Elish Norn. There are so many creature-based aggro decks that cannot deal with a resolved Elish Norn on the battlefield that just implode immediately.
Well,
this is the best
supposed to come down on turn 3.
Yeah. Well, you're definitely right. It's not supposed to come down on turn 3. Overall, the only issue I have had with the deck so far is I do not have a big enough brain to figure out this mana base without killing yourself. So you're running 10 Shocklands right now. It's a little rough, but you definitely need to be able to go like blue source or black source into white source so you can play Consider into Priest or Consider into Faithful Mending. So you want as many double colored lands as you can, but you need to play these pathways because you can't afford to just keep continually shocking yourself over and over and over.
Yeah. Fetching 1 life versus 2 life is a huge difference.
Yeah. As far as the board goes, you just have all the ways to interact with whatever hate you're going to run into. Mainly because this card right here, Portable Hole, is the most versatile card at dealing with hate pieces. The only one it doesn't touch is the one nobody plays. It doesn't touch Layla of the Void. It hits every single other hate piece. It hits Soul Guide Lantern. It hits Containment Priest. It hits Grafdigger's Cage. It just cleans up the board and deals with the card that's going to stop you from reanimating.
Yeah. I haven't played a graveyard deck, so no one's brought in like Leylines against me, but are people playing Leyline? Because I see a lot of Grafdigger's Cage for Coco, but
I have not ran into Leyline yet.
I can't imagine people are really picking it up. But
it is a card that if people pick it up, your only out to it is fragmentize it off the board. And between Otherworldly Gaze, Consider, and Faithful Mending, finding the cards in your deck are not difficult.
Yeah. So I guess when I'm looking at this deck for the first time from a third party perspective, mana base, I agree that is going to be rough because the mana base isn't the best yet for this format because we're still getting new lands. Like we have pathways in there already, so we're seeing new lands get played.
This is the closest I could get as far as sources. So you have 15 blue, 15 black, and 14 white.
Looking at that though, I would then go back and look at those cards because Priest is a hands down has to have. That's the way to do this super busted stuff. What is Faithful Mending up there? I'm not familiar with.
Okay, so Faithful Mending. This is Faithless Looting for blue white.
Perfect. Okay, so that's how you fill your yard.
it fills your yard, gains you 2 life, and has flashback.
Okay.
So
what about bone shards, citrus supplier? I know that with bone shards there.
Okay, bone shards. This is your main deck kind of versatility spell because it kills creatures and planeswalkers, but it also lets you discard cards like Elish Norn, Sarah Emissary, Hullbreaker Horror, or you can discard one of the many things with flashback, i.e., Otherworldly Gaze, Faithful Mending. This one has Unearth and Unburial Rites.
Yeah. I guess I was looking at a way to maybe ease up some of that having to, because right now this is the worst split to I need to have black or blue on one, and then you have the Faithful Mending and Priest are also not both, they're also both white and black or blue. Like
yes. So the mana, so I haven't had a lot of problems with the mana. Generally when you play this deck, if you can, lead on a dual colored land on turn 1, because then your pathways will get you out of trouble on turn 2. So your pathways are, it's generally like lead with Hollow Fountain and then play a pathway to find the other color on the backside. Usually find the black if you need to.
Okay. Yeah, no, this is great. I'm going to test this out a bit too, and then maybe next week we can bring it up and go over it a little bit more in depth, and I'll provide any feedback I have.
Sure.
But it sounds like you've been playing it to some really awesome success.
Yeah. So when I first picked up the deck, I just like decided I really wanted to start like learning how to play Historic better. So when I very first picked up the deck and started tuning it, I went on a like 32-2 streak with the deck. And the first 2 losses were because I had the mana base built wrong. So
well, yeah,
I think this deck is hot fire. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just being super hyperbolic, but right now I'm about to clip into Diamond, and the season just reset a few days ago.
Yeah, no, and now it also, anybody who catches this episode, have fun with this one before the pros come back to it, and maybe we'll see it at the Innistrad Championship,
only.
or maybe the pros will build or break the format down to be a 3-deck format, and this thing could just come and clean up if it gets missed. Yeah.
Also, don't forget the spicy little number down here. We can't see them, so I'm going to reorient the board. This is what makes the whole deck go Big Sluggo.
What?
Toxwheel. It's
Okay.
just, this is Elish Norn number 4, because playing 4 Elish Norns is kind of awkward because you don't want 2 of them. But I definitely like enjoy playing with this slug because people forget that it triggers on the end of both end steps and not just yours.
Yeah, dude, the thing is, it's pretty gnarly. I haven't seen it in any constructed play yet. I'm glad you're already bringing it in. I just got wrecked and limited against that thing.
It's, well, yeah, nobody can beat this card in that limited format.
No, not even a chance.
Yeah.
Oh,
so if
cool.
you're gonna sling some Historic this weekend, I highly recommend playing ESPER Rites. It's super fun, super quick, and I feel like you can just deal with anything. So
yeah,
that's my suggestion.
That's great. And so we're gonna wrap up the historic portion of the show here today. Also, letting you guys know that we're gonna try to bring in some more brews for these different formats too, just for the people who get tired of playing the top 3 decks. If there's only 3, or top 5, there's only 5, and give you guys a chance to maybe check out some of what we're playing. And if they're great like this, then you maybe give you a quick chance to rank up before anybody else figures it out. So yeah, let's move into our next segment here then. And on to our next segment, which is, everything else on Arena we're going to cover here, and we'll spend a little bit of time on each one of these. So let's start with Brawl.
All right, Brawl. This week's Brawl deck is brought to you by the other thing that I love playing in Magic, which is the ramp decks. This one is Azusa. It's pretty much the deck you think it is. Play Azusa, put as many lands into play as fast as possible, and then play a big dummy. Take your pick. You got Ugin, Vorinclex, Cultivator Colossus. This is my boy. The old plant beast. I love this card so much. But
Field of the Dead is legal in Brawl here too. Huh?
Field is legal in Brawl, so this is your ongoing message to just play the zombie deck.
Yeah. Oh my, wow.
You have where's it at? You have Uvenwald Hydra to go find it. There's a bunch of other lands in here that go find it. There's, I believe, Hour of Promise in here, which goes against any 2 lands, so it's just always Field of the Dead and whichever other land you want to go get.
Yeah. Just another one of those sets that was ported in randomly.
Yeah.
Gotta love Arena. You never know what cards are actually legal, but if you have some time and you go look around, you'll find some pretty sweet stuff.
It's a brewer's paradise. As long as you're willing to put in the time and look through every card until you get used to what's in the format.
Always remember to click not collected too, because that's when you see stuff that
100%
you're like, wow, I didn't even play during this time. I didn't know this came out. Like,
yeah, that's how I found like Doom Necromancer was legal. Didn't know that card was legal.
Yeah, this looks great. This looks fun too. So any
it's
ramp champs.
It's the end. I know it's more of how people will refer to it, but by no means do I believe it. This is the big green dummy deck. But no, ramp decks are not for fucking dummies. Sorry about the F-bomb. I'm very adamant about it because I've been playing ramp decks for a long time, and it really irks me when people go, look, it's the big green dummy deck, and then I proceed to call it the big green dummy deck.
How do you count to 7?
Oh, Tron, yes.
Yeah. But
yeah, this is the big green ramp deck, and there's just something about decks like this that I find really entertaining. A lot of people like to bring a scalpel, and I just like to bring a hammer sometimes.
The reason I like these decks so much, and I think people are finding that more in Commander now too, green lets you ramp and pull so many different lands from your deck that most of the time you're allowed to just play a ton of sweet utility colorless lands and then port in any artifacts legal in whatever format you're playing it in. So anytime any colorless cards come out, they slot right into this no matter the mana cost. And then anytime any cool lands like Field of the Dead or what do you got over there that does Cryptic Caves, I think, Crawling Barrens.
Take your pick. Blast Zone, Bonner's Enclave, random colorless land you didn't realize was on Arena.
Yeah, but we get like one every set, and it usually does something super sweet. And if you have the cards or the whatever to craft the cards, why not put this in your list of Brawl decks? Because you're always porting in new fun stuff from any artifacts to any colorless lands every time there's a new set.
This deck evokes childhood memories of when I first started playing Magic.
Crawlworm.
Like, yeah, just like big unsleeved deck full of just the biggest big butt dude you could find shoved into a deck and ways to get there. Every time I look at decks like this, I get super excited because I really like playing these decks because it does bring you back to your childhood when you first started playing Magic. Like, the basics were, I want to cast the biggest creature I can. And let's do that. This is what every time I see this deck list, I think like unsleeved cards on swing sets being played back and forth with your friends, man. This is hallway Magic. This is kitchen table Magic. This is where the fun's at.
Sure. And I think Brawl's a great place for that stuff too, because it's a little more competitive than Commander, but it's still a great place to just have a little fun and relive those memories, I suppose, if you played a big green on the swing set.
Yeah, just doing it, man.
Yeah, I don't remember. I think I used to always play like red, because Shivan Dragon was red.
And Shivan Dragon was just, and this is going to tell you how old I am. Shivan Dragon was a house when Magic first came out. It was the card to have. Not Lotus, not Recall, not Time Walk, none of the Moxen. It was Shivan Dragon.
Well, then you had Bolt, and you had just like other these really random red things, and you didn't have to worry about somebody playing big green dumb stuff because you flew. Everything flew. All your dragons fly.
Yeah, I mean, it was the king. Yeah. Shivan Dragon. The next up was Sarah Angel, and it was a 4/4, and the dragon was bigger, so it did not matter. Shivan Dragon ruled many a board state back in the day.
Until they dropped Jazam.
Oh, no. Jazam dealt damage to you, and Shivan Dragon still flew.
That's true. Yeah. But no, this looks like a fun one. So I will definitely throw this one together like I'm going to do with all of our decks we pick each week. I'm going to try to throw them together prior to the show so I can provide a little better input. But, we've been pretty busy, and this is only the second episode. We're still figuring things out. So bear with us, please.
I make Dan do all the technical stuff. I get to have all the fun.
Hey, I'm like one of the only people who love spreadsheets. So
You just Excel tattooed across your chest.
Yeah, like I wish I could do taxes twice or 3 times a year, but you know.
You're the worst. All right, moving on.
All right, let's move into the next section here. Let's go over the midweek metagame.
We're gonna quickly go over the midweek metagame deck. So the midweek metagame this week is On Thin Edge, I believe is what it's called, and it's the 3 instead of 5 or 6. It's the 3 most recent sets to come on Arena. So we're talking Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, Innistrad Midnight Hunt, and Innistrad Crimson Vow.
So we could think block constructed because Adventures is really just the core set replacement.
Yeah, this is pseudo block constructed for that.
Yeah.
This is what I came up pretty quickly, and I quickly rattled through my matches because all the good vampires are in those 3 sets. So we just rattled off the old vampire deck, carving out with Pitfire, Epicure, your blood token combos via Blood Harvester, and Falcon Wrath for Air. Yeah, you actually have amazing mana in this deck for a standard deck because of Castle Dracula.
Yeah.
Or Voldaren Estate, sorry.
No, that thing is super sweet. And that special art there for that card is sweet. Was that just from the normal mastery?
I don't remember how I unlocked this. I think it came with buying or pre-ordering the bundle.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
it just looks
I
cool.
would definitely just prefer it to be actual Castlevania, but I don't know if Konami's giving up those rights anytime soon. So for the most part, just vampires. You get to push a lot of damage pretty quickly, and you're pretty resilient via forebear, and also just filtering through your deck because of all the blood tokens you generate.
Yeah, and let's be honest, we just want to get the quick rewards, and you play 2-3 matches. So just looking for something that's kind of fun and
so just black red smush, get them.
Yep. You like to smush like mono green smush, black red smush.
Hey man, I'm a simple guy. I like putting big idiots into play too quick. All right, ramp and reanimator. These are the things.
True. There's a theme. We may have to start selecting some third parties to go over some decks, or we're only ramp and reanimator. No. Let's just move on to the next one. This is like a really quick mid-game metagame or midweek metagame. If you want to check that out. But let's get in some limited.
All right. So this week's draft deck is this one I picked up. This is the red-green werewolf archetype. Going on with the rest of this week's theme, it is smash them quick, but I have quite a bit of interaction via Flame Blast Bolt, Abrade, Will Strike, the old Stencia Uprising.
Oh wow, yeah, pretty good one.
As far as decks go, I think this one is pretty stacked, strictly because of I have 3 copies of Child of the Pack. I have 2 Weaver of the Blooms. Like, my whole deck is designed to just flip to Nightbound. So between that and also just Glorious Sunrise, this is definitely one of the better decks I've drafted. But like, you don't need high-end rares like Sunrise or Uprising for this deck to do well. It's a pretty basic concept. Just play the guys, smash in. Once you hit Nightbound, you're just off to the races.
No, this looks good. It definitely looks like nobody was drafting green red, or they hopped out of it at some point, just giving you like 3 Child of the Packs. Lets me know like you're the only person drafting green.
I passed a 4th one of these.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Because I was like, I already have too many 4 drops, and then that's after that is when I found Uprising and Soulblade Slinger. So
yeah, that's a good choice though on those. I would definitely just snag those and look for more of the Weavers too. Whenever I see like I have a high end early, I'm like, I need some Weavers.
Yeah, the Weavers are cleaning up nicely. Yeah, I like this archetype. They're basically like 4 or 5 archetypes worth drafting, and this weekend happens to be the Arena Draft Open, the first time we've done a draft open as far as the opens go. So kind of keep your eyes peeled. There's basically red-green werewolves, black-red vampires, which I think is the strongest. There's the off-kilter blue-red spells deck that uses a lot of the guys that trigger off you casting non-creature spells to deal damage.
So
There's
two really well. Maybe I'll let you run through these because there's two that I've noticed that I've done really well with that I don't think are actual archetypes, but there's just enough cards that people aren't really drafting to make them awesome.
there's the blue-white enchantment-based deck where a lot of your guys have the disturbed ability, so like you gain more value out of them. And then after that, it's like the black-green sacrifice style deck, but and blue-black exploit. So basically, you have your 5 color pairs that are all kind of supported.
Yep. So the blue, black, and black, green, I guess, where I was kind of getting to for that, because I started off the format very much the same as we've discussed. Black red vampires, I try to get into that if it's there, but I don't push into it. Green red werewolves and stuff. These dudes are big, and there's a lot of like decent little kill spells and stuff too. So I look for this form or this archetype. But then lately, I've been going blue, black, and green, black, but it's all for a common, and I don't know the name of the card. Probably should have wrote this down prior to us doing this. But it's the one that gets
we
a plus
are
one,
professionals.
it gets a +1/+1 counter for every creature in your graveyard when it enters the battlefield, and it's at a 5-drop.
So we're gonna do it live here. You said it's a blue 5
green. Sorry, it's a green.
Green. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So this card.
Oh, you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. It's this one. Moldgraph Millipede.
Yes. So that card alone is kind of what is built to, I guess I consider them sub archetypes. If I can get these early, I look for the blue green deck, because then it allows me to take all the best blue cards that mill that really don't do much else for other archetypes.
Self mill.
Yeah, but people stay away from them though.
Yeah, I mean the backbone of the archetype is like vile spawn spider, and then the extra value you can get out of guys that return, like Screaming Swarm, and then you have Moldgraph Millipede. Yeah,
I just see a lot of those going late in the draft though, so that kind of cues me into people aren't trying to draft that archetype. I think maybe some of the better drafters are picking it up if they see it open as well, but the Moldgraph dude puts me straight into that, because there was one time I got 3 of those, and self mill with that guy, by turn 5 you just drop them and you have like 3 10-10s in a row. You can find them pretty easily too, and there's other things that can buy back cards out of your graveyard in green that allow you to get them, because they're kind of like the whole point to playing the deck. But then black green, it allows you to use the exploit mechanic a lot and just have a kind of solid black green deck, and then have them as your top end. You're not really trying to dig through your deck like you are with the blue green version of it. And I've really enjoyed both of those. So if you see those cards, I would say give those 2 lists a shot, because they're really fun. And I think I went undefeated with both of them, or at least like 7-1 or something.
Yeah, I think both of those archetypes revolve around seeing the signpost as far as like early on in the draft. So if you see like an early pick Vile Spawn Spider, you can actually, like, I would pick these up and then pick up the Millipedes, because Millipedes are most likely to table.
Yeah, that frog too.
Yeah, I mean, there's the other sub theme, which is the green black butts deck that's based around just Lumberknot and the enchantment that flips. Plus, there's the black common. The enchantment Dormant Growth. This is like it builds up and then triggers off the butts, and then there's the, I believe it's Catapult Flinger.
Dormant Growth is really good.
Yeah, Dormant Growth. It's nope, I just passed it. It's right here. Catapult Fodder. Sorry, yeah, this is the other butts guy. So there are a few uncommons that work on just like toughness guys that'll start to pay you off if you can find them.
Yeah, okay, that's good. Yeah. I didn't know that there was a.
There are like the 5 main decks that are based around the color pairs, and they all kind of blend together. And then there's like a handful of sub archetypes, like green black buds, blue green self mill, and then the blue red spells deck.
Yeah,
that are all fairly decent if you get the cards that you need to get. But beyond that, like Vow is still, I would say it's like a 60-40 format where 60% of your deck is based on the commons and uncommons, but that other 40% is like sometimes there are just bomb rares that that are going to take over the games and win.
Yep. I think it's still early enough too to where it's much easier to kind of play in an earlier limited format. You can kind of mess around a little bit more. Not everybody is drafted 40 times and they know what the cues are and the cards are.
Oh yeah, I get it. I'm a monster.
Well, I'm just saying, most people, if you're hopping on Arena, not everybody that's in your draft is gonna, got 100 drafts in 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, no.
So you can play around a little bit more and have fun with some of the cards that once the format's drafted for a month, you probably just get wrecked if you're trying to do that. So you want to know those cues and try to draft.
That's true.
More strategically.
I understand what you're saying. Yeah. For the most part, I don't mind foul drafts. Just sometimes you do get blown out by the bombs, but other than that, it's been a pretty good format.
I'm definitely going to play in the Arena Open at least once this weekend, just because I think it's cool. It's the first time it's a limited format, so
it's not the first time it's limited format. It's the first time they were going to. It's the first time it's a draft because we've had several sealeds now, but this is the first draft one, so it's kind of big.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I think I actually played one of the sealed ones, but I don't have that great of a memory when it comes to a tournament that I probably got beat in. So
I'm real good at making day 2. It's making that money that really gets you.
Yeah,
people are good at Magic, man.
Yeah, it's like it's been around for 25 plus years and beloved by many.
You would think after this many years I'd be way better than I am, but it's a complicated game. What do you expect?
It is. And to be honest, I'm surprised when, to know how good I am. Other people, sometimes they're like, I want to be as good as you. And I'm like, really? Because I want to be way better. So it's a learning, I think it's a lifelong learning challenge and
that's
enjoyment.
What keeps it coming back, right? It's a never-ending puzzle that always changes up.
Yeah, so I guess it could be a maddening event as well, but also a fun one.
It's true.
But yeah, so I guess to touch on that a bit more, that's why we do this podcast, because we want to share any information we do have with everybody else to help you achieve your goals, whether that is your first 7-0 in a draft, or if it's taking down a championship or top 8ing some tournament at your local store based on just the information from the internet.
Climbing the ladder, man.
Yeah, that too. That's what I spend my time doing. I just don't assume people waste their time like I do, but I'm sure there's a lot of people out there.
Oh no, I definitely just spend my time climbing a ladder and like tuning this reanimator / ramp deck.
Right. All right. So that I believe is going to close out this show for the week. We've touched on everything we wanted to touch on. I actually enjoyed a lot of the stuff we got to go over this week. There's a lot of cool stuff going on right now in Arena and a lot of tournaments this weekend, so that's fun. Walsh, you have anything you want to add?
No, just if you're going to play on Arena this weekend, get in early. There are going to be a lot of events going on, so there might be a little bit of an issue with the servers. So just take your time and be patient. Don't tilt off.
Yep.
And remember, when you're doing your draft picks, think everything through.
Yes. Yeah. Quick tip that I found that's helped. I don't know if this happens to everybody, if it's just me. I'm assuming multiple people. When my Arena, if it freezes for any reason with the servers being funky or getting bogged down, I immediately exit out, cancel sending any sort of feedback or whatever they're asking me to help them do their thing, and then click right back in. And I can usually get in that exact same phase of whatever turn it is. So if I'm in my attack phase, I'll still be in my attack phase. But if I wait for it to send that information that they always try to have you send to help them solve the problems, it's always like skipped to the next phase. And if it's a big tournament, that could be the whole game.
Alt F4 out, relaunch client.
Oh, yep. Just like that. Yep.
Yep.
So for anybody who doesn't know that, it just sits there and gets frustrated, there's your answer.
My advice would be that if you get in early and the servers are bogged down and you can't get on, just give it a little bit. Give it 30 minutes, give it an hour. Usually things mellow out later on in the day. Hopefully you have time to play in all the events you want to play in. And good luck to everybody.
Yeah, monitor your bandwidth too. Keep your own bandwidth down. That'll help your on your end of it won't be the server, but it'll help you still go a little quicker and stuff.
Or you buy Gucci internet so you don't have to worry about any of that stuff.
Or that. Third option.
Or that.
All right. Well, thank
This
you
is the
everybody
House
for
of Gucci, buddy.
I haven't seen that yet. I'll have to watch that. Everybody who made it to this part of the video, we appreciate you hanging out here with us today and joining the show. I hope you found this information useful. And like always, if there's any information that you want to know or anything you want to discuss, please do so in the comment section below. Shoot us some questions, or I also put our email in there. If you don't like to voice your opinion or ask your questions publicly, you can ask us privately through the email that will be linked to the video. Our first episode did not have the decks linked because we were working some things out, but this episode will have the decks all linked below, and I will even try to have them linked on screen as we discuss them. So please bear with us as we launch this show, and give us your feedback, and we'll see you next week.